it's 8 o'clock in the morning. The wind's coming straight into the river against me, but I've got a couple of hours of ebb tide left, so we'll see how much progress we can make out of the river against the wind. Out from Bradwell all the way around the Dengie Peninsula into the Crouch and then into the Roach up to Paglesham. No idea whether I'll make it that far because there's hardly any wind at the moment and the wind is coming southeast. Will I be able to do a close reach all the way down here? I'm not sure, we'll see. The other thing is getting over the Raysand channel here. So I need at least half tide to get over the drying part of the sand. Anyway, that's the idea. See how it goes. The Nash Beacon and West Mersey. Right off in the distance, looks like a boat's got stuck on St. Peter's Flats. And the tide is going out for another couple of hours. Ah, they're not stuck. They're off on another tack now. Bit of swell from the wind coming in. Been about 45 minutes. We're coming out of the mouth of the Blackwater. Now I've just got to get round St. Peter's Flats. As it's low tide, I'll need to go a fair way out to get round them. So I'll probably have to do one more tack. Wind's picking up, it's getting a bit chillier. Dengie Wind Farm and St. Peter's Chapel, so we're making good progress. That boat there, I think it's more or less on the obstruction marked on the chart. Anyway, we don't want to go near him because he's fishing and we don't want to hit the obstruction, so I've just tacked to get round him. Probably can't see, but just there is the beacon, the first beacon. passing the second cardinal beacon, which marks the wreck on the mud flats. It's really satisfying getting the sails nicely balanced, and then I can hold the tiller with the bungee cord and she just sails along by herself. All very satisfying. A mile or so we should come across the Raysand North Buoy, so I need to keep my eyes peeled for that. Yeah, so I've just seen the Raysand North Buoy through my binoculars, so it's slightly off the starboard bow, but I need to dodge around a slightly shallower area of the flats first. But we're coming up to the buoy. So we're coming up to the Raysand middle buoy, so we're heading over the Raysand, edge of the Raysand right now, and it's 2 hours after low water. So the question is there enough water for me to get over? We're in 2.3 meters at the moment. Well, I'll keep a close eye on the depth sounder. Raysand middle's coming up. Down to 1 meter, down to 0.9 meters. I've just hoiked up the centreboard a bit. I think I'll be fine. I can see the Raysand yellow up ahead of me. 0.8 meters. 0.9. I think I'll be fine. So all good. It got down to 0.8 meters one point, but we're now back to 1.3. So successfully negotiated that. Actually a slight navigational error, but nothing drastic. Raysand yellow actually is a few hundred yards off on the port, and I'm actually coming up to the outer crouch number 1 and 2, but we've got plenty of water, so it's not a problem. That's the outer crouch 1 and 2, so bear away for outer crouch number 3 and 4. But you're coming up ahead. I've had the River Crouch described to me unflatteringly as a big ditch. I can see why, because it's got concrete banks both sides. Let's not be rude about a new river that I'm just entering the first time. So I'll just appreciate the sunny day, the beautiful weather, and a very good breeze right behind me. So thank you, River Crouch. So just keeping track of the buoys as we go in. So we've just passed the Crouch North Cardinal and the Hollywell Point, and we're coming up to the inner Crouch safe water buoy. So I can see the Pinto buoy, Portham buoy up ahead. So that's where we turn off into the Roach. Nice gentle following wind to take us up the river. Perfect.
Arriving somewhere new always seems more exciting when I'm sailing. Very different from arriving somewhere in a car. The most ordinary places take on a new significance. With sailing you have to put much more effort into the journey. The miles go past much slower, and obviously there's a lot fewer people on the water, which all makes me feel a bit like an explorer coming across an unknown land rather than just another visitor.
This is the Roach opening up to port, so I need to turn after the Pinto port hand buoy and keep west, away from the mud on this point here. I get round the corner, I'm going to go into Paglesham Pool, but that will mean I'll have the wind directly behind me, so I don't want to go whistling in, so I'll probably need to get the sails down before I go in. Okay, I've just furled the jib to give me a bit less sail to be dealing with. Sunbathing seals, and the entrance to Yoke Fleet Creek, which is the way to get down to the Haven Gold Bridge. One day I'll give that a whirl. So somewhere up here to starboard is Paglesham Pool. I think I can see it. Whoop. Just past that white yacht. So in a minute I'll turn round into the tide and the wind and get the sails down and put the engine on. Not the purist's way of anchoring, but it will be good enough for me. Lazy jacks, so I'll have to pull it up again so I can stow it properly. Okay. All good. Rather ominous notice. Anyway, the pilot book said I could anchor over here on the west side, so I'll try that. Well, the question is, do I want to dry out? Let me check and see what's underneath with my cane, see if it's level ground. It looks, judging from the bank, that it's on quite a slope. Yeah, so on the bank side it goes down to that first bit of yellow tape, and on the creek side wow, that's yeah, a good 1.5 times deeper, so I don't want to end up drying out there. Have to re-anchor out in the channel a bit deeper. There, just moved out a bit and anchored again, and now in 3.8 meters of water, so I think that'll be fine. Hopefully I'll stay afloat and not dry out. So that was 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock, 7 hours again. But a very nice sail. It was the tacking out of the mouth of the Blackwater that took ages. Once I was heading down the Dengie Peninsula, yeah, I was going along very nicely, and then with the wind blowing me into the Crouch and round the corner to the Roach, that was all very easy. And good to have got over the Raysand with no problem. It got down to 0.9 and then 0.8 metres, and at 0.8 metres my depth sounder doesn't say anything lower than 0.8, so you never quite know what's going on once it gets to 0.8, because it never says 0.7, 0.6, 0.5. But we got through fine, so all good. Water's come up a lot, so looking north, that's Burnham on Crouch over there in the distance, and if we look kind of southwest, those buildings are Paglesham, and then the rest is flat east coast scenery. So thinking about the journey home, I'm here, I've got to get the ebb tide out of the Crouch, I've got to get across the Raysand, and it's about 9 miles between me in Paglesham Pool to the beginning of the race. Anyway, it'll take 2.5–3 hours, so I'll be at half tide going across the Raysand. I think that'll be okay. I mean, maybe to be on the safe side, I might try leaving a little bit before high water. It's now 5 o'clock. I'm not convinced this is the best place to be anchored, because essentially the wind is coming straight down here, so there's a long fetch, and yeah, I mean, they're not big waves, but they're making the boat bob up and down a bit, and yeah, I'm completely exposed in the direction of the wind, so that's pretty stupid. So I think I'm gonna head back down the Roach and go into Yoke Fleet Creek off to starboard, and hopefully that'll be a bit more protected. Here is Yoke Fleet Creek. This looks more peaceful. This is much calmer and better, so I'll stay here. There we go, a meal fit for a king. Tide's been going out for about 3 hours now. The water levels really dropped. It means we're much more protected from the wind from the banks. So I'm actually reading this Joseph Conrad novel because I read somewhere else that in it he mentions Havengore Creek. Just to be clear, I don't think Havengore Creek is actually mentioned by name, but someone sails out of the Thames and someone else is chasing them and they disappear into a creek, and so the guy who's writing about it said, I reckon that's Havengore Creek. I've read 181 pages and no mention of it yet. Anyway, I'll let you know when I get to the Havengore Creek bit. The evening sun glows on the water, the wind dies down, the birds call incessantly,
and in the distance the seals utter their strange prehistoric cries. I've found the passage. So there's a character called Marlowe who's trying to keep in touch with another guy called Powell. Marlowe says about Powell: Powell was friendly but elusive. I don't think he ever wanted to avoid me, but it is a fact that he used to disappear out of the river in a very mysterious manner sometimes. A man may land anywhere and bolt inland, but what about his 5-ton cutter? You can't carry that in your hand like a suitcase. Then suddenly he would reappear in the river after one had given him up. And then Marlowe goes on: well, I have discovered the mystery of Powell's disappearances. The fellow used to run into one of those narrow tidal creeks on the Essex shore. These creeks are so inconspicuous that till I had studied the chart pretty carefully, I did not know of their existence. One afternoon I made Powell's boat out, heading into the shore. By the time I got close to the mud flat, his craft had disappeared inland, but I could see the mouth of the creek by then. The tide being on the turn, I took the risk of getting stuck in the mud suddenly and headed in. All I had to guide me was the top of the roof of some sort of small building. I got in more by good luck than by good management. The sun had set some time before. My boat glided in a sort of winding ditch between two low grassy banks. On both sides of me was the flatness of the Essex marsh, perfectly still. All I saw moving was a heron. He was flying low and disappeared in the murk. Before I had gone half a mile, I was up with the building, the roof of which I had seen from the river. It looked like a small barn. A row of piles driven into the soft bank in front of it and supporting a few planks made a sort of wharf. I had not seen a single house anywhere near. There did not seem to be any human habitation for miles, and now, as darkness fell denser over the land, I couldn't see the glimmer of a single light. However, I supposed that there must be some village or hamlet not very far away, or only one of those mysterious little inns one comes upon sometimes in most unexpected and lonely places. So, that could be Haven Gore Creek in Chance by Joseph Conrad. Directly from the east at the moment, so it's directly from the direction I want to go, plus I'm still against the last of the flood tide, so unfortunately I wouldn't be going anywhere unless I use the engine. So I'll be doing that for the moment. As I left the mouth of the Crouch, there was a bit of a swell that rolled the boat around, and the further I headed out to sea, the larger and lumpier the waves became. I started to feel a little uneasy and thought to myself, do I really want to keep going out into this? But these are also the moments that I want to experience and overcome. I said to myself that everything would get calmer once I got the sails up and turned out of the wind, so I carried on. That was a bit exciting. Thankfully, the waves seem to have calmed down slightly now. Anyway, soon I'll be heading off to the north and hopefully I can put some sails up, turn the engine off. Out to Crouch, number 1. Coming up the Raysand Yellow. Over the Raysand we go. So it's just 6:10. So it's only an hour after high water, so we should have loads of water. This is more like it.
This is Service Coast Guard. Roger, change channel 67 and stand by, over.
.2 meters. So we've crossed the Raysand now, up to 4.8 meters of water. So now it's just the homeward stretch along the edge of the Dengie Flats. Bradwell power station gleaming in the sun. I'm making such good time now. I'm going to be heading into the Blackwater on the ebb tide, against the tide, but with the wind behind me I think that'll be fine. It's now 7 o'clock, so yeah, I've been going 2.5 hours, and I'm just coming up to St Peter's Chapel, just there. I've got round the end of the Dengie Flats, well, St Peter's Flats, so now I'll be heading into the Blackwater. I think I need to jibe. That's better. And so my return journey came to an end, much quicker than I had expected, but I was very pleased with the whole trip. I had made it across the shallow Raysand, I had anchored for the night in an entirely new river, and I had got through some anxious minutes in the choppy waves coming out of the Crouch. Obviously gaining experience means having these moments where I get a bit out of my depth. Without them, I know I would be missing something. And so, safely back in the marina with Shamrock tied up in her berth, I had the same mix of feelings I often do after these trips. A satisfying sense of achievement, combined with a fair amount of relief.